So one of the things I used to talk about this a fair bit on this channel, but um, one of the things that you'll notice is that when you listen to a lot of people that are talking about success in popular culture, um, I listen to podcasts and different things like that. And when you listen to them, they might have drawn um, and talked to a bunch of people ask them about their success and things like that. And when you listen to them, it's always really silly ways, tools for success. They'll say that, hey, everybody that I know gets up at 4 a.m. to become successful. Everybody I know, they, um, that's highly successful. They, they eat gummy bears or everybody know does meditation or, any number of different things. Um, and it's fascinating because we neglect the obvious that often it's just luck. And then, what we end up doing is called superstitious learning. Um, and Jim March popularized this, but actually came from B.F. Skinner, who is really well known um, behavioral psychologist from the 1950s. But essentially, if we don't understand what causes success, we end up trying to find explanations for it. If we don't understand cause and effect, we just gather explanations and we say, this is the reason why, for no apparent reason. And what you'll know, at least from the research perspective, for those people that are studying this kind of stuff, it's extraordinarily hard to understand why something happens. We go through great lengths to understand, and even still, it's sort of massive lengths that we go through, and I think it's getting way better than it used to. Um, I don't believe a lot of the stuff that I read in the research world because of the fact that we often draw from very convenient samples that, and this is getting better, but we draw from very convenient samples or things that are neat and tidy to come up with the explanation that we have. And then, the other big thing that we do in the research game, the same thing, we end up looking at the data first, um, understanding what is significant and coming up with sort of theories about what this actually means. But, the short answer with all of this is that we draw upon these sort of random explanations because the world is very difficult to understand. And we neglect often the most obvious answer. And that people get to where they are because they're just like stupidly lucky. They were just sort of fortunate time in their lives. They sort of clicked the right thing and they got into the right path that moved them from here to there. And I mean, they'll like to come up with explanations for all of this stuff. This is one thing that it becomes painfully obvious when, so for example, you might, be in like hiring positions or whatnot. This is something that that a lot of people eventually get into, and you realize like everybody looks at the damn thing. Everybody looks awesome. How do we actually get people from, how do we choose? And often it's just like flipping a coin. Like it's randomness where everybody looks pretty damn awesome. Um, it's either, and sometimes everybody looks pretty damn awful, right? Like it just doesn't work. And then you are, um, you know, the one side, everybody looks awesome. And then you're sort of flipping a coin, who gets in, who doesn't. And then on the other side is like everybody looks terrible. And yet, because of the structures that we often have, that even when you're terrible, we have to choose. We all group of, you know, terrible candidates. You have to sort of pick one. And all of this is, you know, what I'm trying to emphasize is that there's a tremendous amount of luck, regardless of what's happening. Um, you know, even when things don't work out for you, or they shouldn't have worked out for you, which is the more difficult thing to actually get to. I think this is called the type 2 error. It's, you know, there should have something happened, but it didn't happen. That's an extraordinarily difficult thing to think about. And I always get tripped up. So, like, don't get hung up on what I'm actually saying here. But basically, something didn't happen that should have happened. And we'll never see what that actually is. And it doesn't exist. And to compound all of that, this happens every day in our lives. All of these things, all of these choices are made without our understanding, right? Um, and often there's choices that are made that are not quite choices. We have nothing to do with them. Um, they're because of something else that's happening in our lives that's not quite clear, or somebody else has control over it. What I'm suggesting with all of this is that a huge component of our lives is just dumb luck. Like, who we're born into, what country we're in, what happens to the country itself. Um, majority of our lives is dumb luck. And I guess it's extraordinarily attractive to just throw up our hands and say, some external being is controlling what happens in our life. Um, which is wonderful, right? Like, it's a part of my life. It's sort of things like that. Um, but at the at the other side, it's just to acknowledge, like, there's a lot of just kind of stupidity that we can't explain. Um, and whether you call it because of some external sort of higher being controlling it, or just chance and dumb luck and all of that kind of stuff, which I do probably believe in a little bit of both sides. Um, but none of that, what I'm getting at, the bigger point is, when you're listening to these tales of success and why people become successful and don't become successful and all that kind of stuff, they don't even know. The people have already become successful. So just be very careful when you're listening to that, and in interpreting that. And then on the other side, when you're looking at people of wondering, why are they um, under, why are they without a home, for example? Realize that, man, there is a lot of reasons why that happened that they can't understand. That's outside of their control. And even things that you might say, well, that is in their control. Choosing the first drug that they got. Some people choose these things when they're 8, 7, 8 years old. Like, do you think that that was their choice at that moment when they chose it when they were 7, 8 years old? I think that we all have a lot of stories and a lot of narratives that are challenging to understand for almost all of us. And at the best of times, the world is complicated. So instead of thinking that we control everything and we can understand all of why we can do one thing or the other, we have significant agency, take a step back, realize that we can't explain these things often. And often we just get to one place because of just dumb luck. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. And I guess I should say, before you go, you should say, just have a lot of empathy for people that had situations where it's just not working out for them, whatever reason. And then highly, highly discount the people where things worked out for them in their favor. They likely have another explanation for why they are the way that they actually are. All right, take care. God bless.